Merry Meet Witches. I'm Liz. I am a solitary Wiccan witch, and this is an extension of my Instagram page, Spells, Herbs, and Incantations. In today's video, we're going to be talking about protection circles. What they are, what they're used for, and the circle I personally use. So, protection circles are, in essence, a circle of sort of kinetic magical energy that protects you and your energy while you are casting. It can protect you physically, it can protect you emotionally, but most importantly, it protects you spiritually, as well as keeping your intentions pure by keeping your intentions from being corrupted by the intentions of other beings or psychic beings around you. Now, there are a multitude of protection spells that can be cast, and a multitude of different ways, so I could not possibly tell you every single one. The one that I personally use is referred to as the Circle of Stones, but that's very loosely based. The circle that I use is probably 50% a circle that I read out of a book when I first started my path, and 50% sort of deviating and doing what I have learned and feel is right for my casting. So all circles are different, but they do have very similar hallmarks. One of them is defining the circle itself. Not to say that every single circle is defined, but it can very much be defined. Some people will use brick dust, some people will use a cord, some people will draw it with chalk, some people do things like paint. I do not define my circle very often. I use more of a mental drawing of my own mind, where it starts from me and sort of like radiates out. So I am always the center of the circle, which gives me a little bit more freedom and a little bit more motion. So one of the common misconceptions with protection circles is that you cannot leave the space. You can't leave the circle. Never leave the circle of salt. And that is very much true if you do a physical defining of the circle. If you draw a line on the ground, if you use a cord, if you use dust, if you use salt, then you cannot, that circle is physically defined. So you cannot step outside of that physically defined circle. But there are circle types that are defined by its middle as opposed to its edges, which is, as I said earlier, the type of circle that I cast. The circle radiates from me. So wherever I am is always the center of the circle. That type of circle is used in creating talismans, which the circle's beginning is the talisman. Another major hallmark of a protection circle is calling the corners or the towers, or also referred to as the ancients. So one of the hallmarks that is, I would say, every single circle I have encountered, every single circle ritual, instills this in one way or another, where you call the four directional corners, north, south, east, and west. They can be labeled many different things. Like I said, they can be labeled the ancients, they can be labeled the towers. That's a really common, calling the towers is a really common term. Invoking the towers is a very common term. The corners is, I feel, the most typical term. And I, of course, do that. That is one of the ways that I define my corners. Personally, in my ritual, I call the corners by using the words, "O to the spirits of the north, ancient ones of earth, I call you to my circle. O to the spirits of the west, ancient ones of water, I call you to my circle. O to the spirits of the south, ancient ones of fire, I call you to my circle. O to the spirits of the east, ancient ones of air, I call you to my circle." That is another really specific hallmark, is people will almost always attach the elements that are attached to each of the corners. As I said, earth for north, water for west, air for east, and fire for south. But people will also attach characteristics very connected to those elements to the corners or towers as well. So people will say, I call upon the I call upon the tower in the north, the tower of earth, strength, and stability. Or I call upon the tower of the west. I call upon the tower of the west, the tower of water, flexibility, and constance. You know, people will attach, and that's another way that people, it's a little bit more in depth, and it's another way that people will call the corners. Another misconception when it comes to protection circles is that they can only be used when you are casting magic. And that is 100% not true. I have a protection circle that I place. It is a salt circle that I place around my home to keep my home spiritually protected. Mostly because I am a hypersensitive person as far as spirituality goes. It gives me a safe haven where the vibrations and chaos of the psychic world outside of my home stops at my door. So I can come home and be in the silence and in the quiet and in the stillness of my own vibrations and the vibrations of the people that I live with. And this can be done around a home. It can be done around a bed. In ancient pagan cultures, it was sometimes even performed around towns. There would be entire towns that were protected by protection circles. I know that voodoo and hoodoo cultures very strongly use brick dust to define their circles. I know that it's a common practice in that culture to put brick dust across a doorway, because that way people who want to harm you can't cross that line of brick dust. That is another form of protection circle. Like I said, it can live inside the physical circle you can create, or it can come from the middle of the circle and radiate out, which is, like I said, where you would create a talisman. So you can create a necklace and bless it with a circle, and the necklace is the epicenter of that circle. So wherever the necklace is the center of that circle, so you give it to the person you want to protect, and that person is protected by that circle. It's a common practice among a lot of cultures, a lot of pagan cultures. It's very prominent in the Wiccan culture, in the Wiccan community. But other people will put hallmarks of each element in the corners. I have also been known to practice that way. One of my favorite and simplest ways to do this is to get 4 shot glasses, and you can put water in one, a candle in another, keep one empty, and then put dirt in the other one and put them in the 4 corners. And that is a sort of physical representation of each corner, and it anchors that corner if your circle is a physical circle. And that's all I have to say. Whether you're casting a temporary circle for your casting, or a permanent one for your comfort or protection, I hope that this video really helped you understand where to start. Thank you guys for watching my video. If you have any questions or ideas for future videos, please leave them in the comments below. And if you liked this video, you can click that bell icon to get post notifications whenever I post on this channel. And to all of my brother and sister witches out there, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.